This Kirblog topic was suggested by Zinnyfinity. If you'd like to suggest topics for videos like these, and if you want to hear me record them in my community Discord server before they release, consider supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/Kirbifer. Hello and happy holidays. Last Kirblog of the year, Zinny wanted me to talk about a bunch of my memories of N64 games. And as probably a lot of y'all know, the N64 is one of, if not maybe my favorite video game console of all time, as evidenced by this big box full of a huge collection of N64 games. I don't remember exactly how many in total, but there's quite a few. And so I thought what I'd do is I would just go through the whole entire collection and tell like a story or two about every single game, because I'm sure I've got something to say about them. Probably things that I've talked about on other Kirblogs over the last, God, at this point, I don't know, it's 13 years or something. But that's fine. There's a lot of new folks that have shown up, and so and I know a lot of people that like my work probably are also N64 players in general, whether they grew up with the system or had a lot of these games on Virtual Console or the Switch Online, any of that kind of thing. So I figured I may as well start where it all began. These might not be all necessarily in chronological order. You can also see that I wrote down the actual names of them for when I had originally had them lined up, because unfortunately they didn't actually put titles for them on the sides like they used to with the Super Nintendo cartridges anymore. But nonetheless, Mario 64. I remember, funnily enough, speaking of Christmas, I got my N64 as a Christmas gift, all the way back in, I guess that would have been 1996 probably, because I think it came out in 95. My poor dear old Dadifer tried his best to get me an N64 the previous Christmas, but they were sold out. So he got me Sonic 3D Blast instead, bless his heart. But the following year, I got this and another game that I'll talk about perhaps next or later. But of course, I knew that I had to have this as one of, if not my first N64 game, absolutely. And I have probably 100% of this game, gosh, at this point, at least like 6 or 7 times in total, I think, somewhere around there. And it's despite the fact that it is a tremendously flawed 3D game, because of course it was one of the first of its kind, I still love it very much, making me rip my hair out to get the 100 coin stars in the later levels and all. But I do remember in particular, in elementary school, I knew this one kid that had beaten it before I had, and so he got up to the final battle with Bowser before I did. And this is after, what felt like forever. To me, as a little kid, it felt like years, but it probably was only like a single year that it took me enough to get 70 stars to open up the final door with the infinite, the endless staircase. I did not know how to do the backwards long jump, so no, I couldn't cheat that. But finally, I got through the gauntlet of Bowser in the Dark World, and finally I was able to fight against Bowser at the end. And I remember I looked up the kid's name in my my like school directory where we had all of our phone numbers and addresses. Not a safe thing to do anymore, by the way, but at the time. So I'd never called him because we weren't even really that good of friends. So this must have been very disturbing and annoying probably, but I called him being like, yo, Bowser alert, I don't know what to do, help, blah, blah, blah. Not like it was really much different from the previous ones. You grab them, you swing them around, you throw them. That is actually, especially now with the tendonitis and everything, that is the one thing, genuinely more than anything else, more than like where's the last coin I gotta get, or these stars are hard to get, or whatever. It is the throwing Bowser mechanic by rotating the control stick that I just cannot stand. It was a great idea. It was a very, very cool mechanic that they had, but every time. Even I think I streamed playing it maybe like within the last year or two, and that was always the part that just drives me nuts. So not my favorite, but still love this game. Captured my imagination. it's probably the origin of me loving, low poly, 3D graphics and everything. Love the music. Really gotten way into the modding, well, not way into, like watching the modding community and all the crazy, Last Impact and Star Road and all those kind of things. That absolutely blows my mind to see what people have been able to do by modding this game. It absolutely blows my mind. So, all right, I'll just start to stack these up over here. Let's see. How about this? All right, well, this was later in the life cycle of the N64's life, but Super Smash Brothers, the original N64 Smash Brothers. This was the first fighting game that I ever owned. And I'd played, little bits and pieces of, I think, maybe Street Fighter or I don't know if Marvel vs. Capcom 1 was at that point. I think it might have been. I'm pretty sure. But this was the first fighting game that I owned because, of course, oh my god, the fighting game with Nintendo characters, I gotta have it. Pathetically, I remember I played this at my dad's apartment many years ago, obviously, like shortly after it came out. And I literally couldn't beat easy mode, the easy one-player, like classic mode as they call it now. I couldn't beat that on easy with Mario with 5 lives. I was just so bad at this game, it was unbelievable. And you'd think, because I remember like fighting Master Hand and like doing the the super jump punch and the Mario tornado over and over, thinking, yeah, that's how you do it. Like, you just use the B moves over and over. That's all it is. So was quite bad at it, and then eventually got decent at it. Was playing with Donkey Kong a lot, and getting my ass kicked quite a bit. And then I was advised, like, try Kirby. So I tried Kirby, and suddenly I realized, oh, I'm actually better with him. And then Smash Melee came out, and I started using Kirby in that, but realized very quickly I wasn't very good with Kirby in Melee specifically, but I liked him enough, and I liked having the white Kirby, so that led to Kirbyfer, of course. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, and I've been watching lately a lot of these mods of people adding other N64 characters to this one specifically, which has also been kind of blowing my mind, the amount of crazy stuff that, like, I dreamed about. Oh, what if they put like Marina from Mischief Makers in this game, and now people can just model it and animate it and program it, and it's there. It's absolutely out of control. Good lord. Let's see. Oh dear god. I don't know if I have the microphone anywhere, but here's Hey You Pikachu. There was a time where I wanted to collect every single Pokemon game ever made. I gave up around shortly after Emerald came out, and like Pokemon Box and the Pokemon Minis. I was like, I think I'm good. And then I kind of gave up, and then I missed Generation 4, and, I didn't get back into playing the games again and really being into the anime and everything, literally and figuratively, until Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out. But tried this game. This is, I think, one of the only ones that I own in this whole collection that I have never beaten, because it was impossible. The AI for Pikachu listening to you, using the microphone to go around and collect ingredients and bring them to the things and whatever, it was just a pain in the ass. It just was not being very functional. And truth be told, I just wasn't enjoying it that much. Like, and I am a Pikachu defender. I do like Pikachu genuinely quite a bit. But my love for Pikachu was not enough for me to see past how annoying this game was. So, I did fall for that old rumor of like, oh, if you say like Sega or Sony or Sonic the Hedgehog or something, like, he'll get angry and electrocute you. I totally fell for that rumor, and that was not true at all. I think Did You Know Gaming debunked that a while back. But, yeah, it's probably thrown out, and probably a disgusting piece of felt in, garbage heap somewhere. But I did have the microphone. I don't know if there were any other games in the US anyway that used the N64 microphone, at least not to my recollection. But, yeah, so there's a little piece of weird Pokemon history. Let's see. Okay. Been in a little bit of a mood of this recently. I was actually just showing this game to somebody that had never grown up with Star Fox before, but Star Fox 64 was the other game that I got as my Christmas gift along with the N64. I did not screech like the Nintendo 64 kid, although I was as excited as that, certainly. So I love this game. I still think it is the absolute pinnacle of Star Fox, which is both a blessing and a curse because so many other Star Fox games after that just kept trying to reinvent the wheel with this game. So it set the bar kind of a little too high. But I love it. I remember particularly for many years as a kid, I would always avoid Sector Z because that was the one level in the whole game that I was so bad at, even after I'd gotten good enough to be able to beat the hardest mode where you go through Area 6 and then you fight Star Wolf right before you fight Andros, who turns into the brain. But I always dodged Sector Z because that mission to me as a kid was so hard. And if I remember right, I don't think it was until this game came out on the Virtual Console on the Wii or the Wii U, one of the two, that I replayed it as a not at least an adult, an older kid at that point. Maybe I can't remember what year that would have been, but and so I remember even on Smash Brothers going back to that, I was so like, oh, Sector Z, oh, why did I have to pick that level of all ones? But finally I was able to get it, and then I also, when I was replaying this years later on the Virtual Console, I was finally able to get all of the medals, all the high score medals, and I unlocked the expert mode, then did it again, and got the multiplayer mode where you can play as Fox and Falco and Slippy and Peppy on foot, which I dreamed of unlocking that after I read about that was a thing you could get in the player's guide that I had. I might still have somewhere, it's like lost somewhere. But now I can go through the game pretty well. Although on my recent playthrough, realized still getting the high score medals not super easy for me. Devin Mack is like a master at Star Fox 64. He's gotten like insane scores that I've seen before, even on the 3DS remake as well. Also, funny thing, I remember when I saw this game at a kiosk, I think in a Blockbuster, I immediately thought, oh, the characters look so cool. And I remembered their names, Fox, Falco, Slippy, and I couldn't remember the name of Peppy, but I remember he was a hare, he was a rabbit, so I was like, Harry. Yeah, that's his name, right? I was a silly child, but love this game, one of my favorites, absolutely. Diddy Kong Racing! I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill. I think this game is better than Mario Kart 64. I am in a very, very small minority of people that think that, but I love this game. I love the tracks more. I think the tracks are more creative. I love the multiple vehicles. I even honestly liked the characters more at the time than even like playing with the Mario characters in 64. I love the story mode, as simplistic as it is. I loved having a hub world to drive around. Yeah, this was I think actually. Other than the Donkey Kong Country games, this was the first Rare game that like really captured my imagination, and then other ones that I'll get to like expanded that outward like 1,000 times more. But I love this game. I actually wonder how much more difficult it would be for me to go through and do all the silver coin missions as an adult. Probably not as difficult as it used to be, but that was a mother. And I remember my dad, who played quite a few N64 games with me, I think he even tried some of the silver coin missions, and he was even having some trouble with that too. They were not easy to go through. And I remember we got a bunch of the cheat codes from beating the game, and we tried the 2-player adventure mode a couple times, but then we realized when we got up to the silver coin mode, you had to get all... I think, is it 8 coins? I think you had to get all 8 silver coins. Both players had to get them both. And we realized quickly that neither of us were that good at that, so we didn't play the 2-player mode for that long, unfortunately. But I was delighted to find out when I interviewed Dave Wise and Kevin Bayless a couple years ago. They mentioned that one of the Stamper Brothers kids was the voice of Timber because he sounded like a real little boy, and I was like, oh, that's cute. So that's kind of a fun thing. I always loved doing impressions of all the characters and stuff when I was a kid. Let's see. Dig a little bit in here. All right, here we go. A Pokemon game on the N64 with probably much more pleasant memories for people compared to Hey You Pikachu, but of course, Pokemon Stadium, fantastic. So now this one, funnily enough, I'm sure people probably know this if they're really in the know, but this is actually Pokemon Stadium 2. in Japan originally. We didn't get the first Pokemon Stadium game, which was very rudimentary, just certain Pokemon modeled and very basic modes and stuff. But I loved this. I know everybody like, oh, why can't this be a full RPG? But even just playing through the modes and everything, although, now that I say that, funnily enough, this is another game that I've never beaten. I have only done Gym Leader Castle because that was really the only mode that interested me, to be honest. The other modes, the other cups that were in the game, I wasn't a huge fan of them, and I realized that like raising my Pokemon to be a certain level was a little bit of a pain in the ass. The first time I played this game, I had a really crappy, not balanced team where my Charizard was level 100, and that didn't go over so well, unfortunately. So then I got on my, because that was my blue version team, the one that was stolen, as I've talked about many times. My red version team, I did the what's it called, the infinite item glitch on a rare candy to make sure that all of my 16 members, which I think were Vaporeon, Charizard, Raichu, Dugtrio, Vaporeon, and one other that I'm forgetting, unfortunately. It might have been Alakazam, I think. I made sure that they were all like level 86 or something, whatever it was, and kept them on that level and never let them go beyond that so that I could always have them be the same level as whatever the enemies were. But once I finished Gym Leader Castle, and other than playing the little goofy mini games, didn't really love the game so much that I'm like, oh, I gotta, do all the rest of the cups and then fight Mewtwo at the end. So I've only ever seen the Mewtwo battle in YouTube, like recordings of it. So I'm a little bit of a fake fan, but still love this game very much. I don't know if they actually have Pokemon Stadium 2 in here. I think I might have either lost that or borrowed it from somebody, but that one is better than this one in every way humanly possible across the board. All right, what do we got now? Ooh, all right, Kirby 64, long awaited, of course. We were supposed to get Air Ride on the N64, and never happened. But this game is fantastic. As a kid, I was a little like, the combining powers thing, whatever, so lame. I don't know, wasn't like for me. And now as an adult, I think that was such a cool creative idea. I don't know if they'll ever try that again because it seems so specific to this game. But what a creative, cool idea. I'd be interested to see if they picked different other base powers to combine together and do funny things in different ways with that, if there ever a way to do so. Although I will say, the Switch Kirby game, Forgotten Land. Some of the upgraded versions of the powers I felt in a certain way were kind of scratching that itch of doing weird creative things with some of these. So that was still cool. But love this one. I remember, here's a funny thing. In an ancient version of Balancing Act where I was kind of LARPing with my IRL friends and kind of coming up with stories, I remember a very distinct thing where we had a bad guy that was hiding away in a certain area in a cyber world, and we found out there are a series of clues that if you go to, this is all obviously made up, just like playing pretend in the schoolyard type thing, but if you go to the first level of Ripple Star and you use the combination of the fire and ice powers together at this one part after you beat the mini boss, it will open up a portal. And then we went inside and we fought the bad guy, and then we split his soul, and it got turned into all these 10 different versions that were based on all of the base powers in this. So there was fire, ice, bomb, spark, cutter, needle, and what was the other one? There was one other one, can't remember. But we also added an additional two, crystal and ribbon, because you get those two powers sort of when you team up with ribbon and use the crystal to shoot 0-2 at the very end of the final boss. And we thought that was kind of a cool thing, so we had that in there. It's kind of a, not all that creative thing to do. Start building up on this other side over here. Let's see. Here's a funny one. One of the few Pokemon games that has the anime exclusive characters in it, because Ash is right there on the cover. And I think that this was made specifically for the American audience, or the overseas audience. I guess I should be more broad with that. I'm assuming that there's probably a Japanese version of this, I imagine, maybe. Pokemon Puzzle League, I think, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I think I played this before Tetris Attack, which of course was the American Yoshi rebranding of Panel de Pon. I think I played this first, and then I went back and I replayed Tetris Attack on the Super Nintendo. But nonetheless, yeah, I was pretty obsessed with this game. This was one of the few games that I put a lot of time into, despite the fact that I was terrible at it, and it is actually a miracle of Christ that I managed to beat this game on the very hard mode. I don't know how, in God's name, I pulled that off. I like puzzle games a lot. I'm so bad at them. I don't know how to do the cool combos and, you know, chain reactions and all that stuff. But I do remember being over a friend's house. We beat Gary, and we as we had beaten. So those of you who don't know, the easy, normal, and hard mode, they end at different points with a different final boss. They cut off. But if you beat the hard mode and you beat Gary, you get the trophy. Like, yeah, you win. You get a little cutscene for it, and it cuts off. We played the very hard mode, and then I remember my mind being blown when we got up to the cutscene where it glows open and then Mewtwo challenges you to a battle. I was like, what? That was the coolest moment, was just seeing that. Like, no idea that would happen, and we managed to do it. Not on the first try, but just that was the most mind-blowing thing about this whole game, was getting to do that. So, oh, I remember one other thing. Hold on, can't forget this. So, Poliwhirl is one of my favorite Pokemon. Weird choice, I know, but really love him. Turns out I think he's one of Satoshi Tajiri's favorites, maybe? Or maybe Junichi Masuda, I can't remember. But love Poliwhirl, he's great, he's super cute. And he had not been in the show, or he had been in the show briefly, but never did his voice. He never spoke. He was in the second Pokemon movie, and they accidentally recycled a clip of him going Poliwrath, thinking it was Poliwrath. Oops. Or it might have been saving money, probably more likely, knowing 4 kids at the time. Haha. Nonetheless, I was like, what is he going to sound like? What is Poliwhirl going to sound like? And finally, I unlocked Lorelei, go to the sound test, and Poliwhirl! And I'm like, wow. Well, I'm disappointed. And then when the show happened, we got Poliwhirl, and I'm like, well, that's a little better, I guess. But nonetheless, yeah. So that's my little cute thing about Pokemon Puzzle League. Let's see. Oh, so many. Oh, some of these actually don't have labels, funnily enough. Oh, another one from the late in the game's life cycle. This game is awesome. Did not appreciate it nearly as much as I should have when I was a kid, because I just wanted Mario RPG 2 at the time, of course. But this game is great, and it's funny. Most people are like, oh, Thousand Year Door is just so superior to it in every way. It mostly is, but there is one thing that this game has over Thousand Year Door, absolutely. The level and dungeon design is fantastic, and I would say actually superior to Thousand Year Door for sure. This game, I would love to see get remade. I don't know how likely that is, but I do have good memories of playing it. I knew at the time, I was like, I don't really like it as much as Mario RPG, but it's just a different take. It's still very cool. I like it. Love the music. I remember weirdly playing also this crappy Flash game. Oh, no, it wasn't a Flash game. It was a Java game of kind of like a Tetris Attack type thing where you're kind of rotating little marbles around to try to match 3 colors or something like that. And I would always play the battle themes from this game in my head while I was playing it. That was one of the big takeaways from me. Really enjoyed the modded version that somebody made recently where they put all the badges from Thousand Year Door into it and made the gameplay style a little bit closer to that. That was super cool. So I love this game. I think it's on the Switch Online, if I'm not mistaken. So if you played Thousand Year Door and you haven't tried this one, please do, because it's fantastic. So, alrighty. Oh, one of my favorites. Alrighty. I feel like I'm one of the 20 people on this planet that love this game so much. Yeah, this was a tremendous inspiration to me. I've played it. I've done a whole Kirblog about it separately, but gosh, I'm trying to think of maybe a specific story. Oh, okay, no, I do have one. This is funny. Okay, so going back to that ancient version of balancing act again. Actually, this is a good segue off of the Poliwhirl thing. Okay, when I was playing what became Balancing Act years later, and it was me just playing pretend with my friends in the schoolyard and doing whatever, right? So we had these little cute like mascot animal team of characters that we just had, as our little gang of buddies, right? I remember very distinctly. They were Simba. They were Bowser, that little plushie that I have, with the big snoot that I've done many videos of. Kenny from South Park, don't ask. Poliwhirl, and Pikachu. It was those 5. They were called the Color Friends. We were like 10, so. I wanted Terran, who is the Clancer with the little baseball cap that turns into Blockman. He expands outward. We wanted him to be the 6th character to do that. But there was no toys of this game, obviously, so we didn't have a physical representation like we did with the toys and little plushies and action figures of the other characters, right? So, I intended to kill him off. We literally used real characters from other pre-existing things in the stories we were telling at the time because we were children, So, but I remember distinctly, everybody in my friend group was like, don't kill Terran. We love him. He's great. And I'm like, you guys haven't even played this game. And you have this huge attachment to this character. Like, what is that about? But I guess I in our LARPing, I portrayed him so sympathetic that they loved this character so much. And I am praying for a day that maybe someday, and I'm praying to the gods right here, I'm praying that Way Forward will license Rescue this game and work with Treasure and do a remake. I want that so bad you can't even comprehend. Oh my god. So, nonetheless. Let's see. What's this one here? Oh, good lord. Oh boy. Alright. Conker! I'm glad that this is what the game ended up being. Unlike Star Fox Adventures, where I wish that we got Dinosaur Planet instead of this game, I'm glad that this is what we got. Chris Seaver and all of them were hysterical. I know it's ungodly difficult and some of the levels are not super well designed necessarily, but nonetheless, I love the wild, wacky, insane creativity of this game so goddamn much. It is such a wild ride. There's still certain things about it that are like ingrained in my brain after all these years that I quote and everything. But I do recall torturing my poor parents so much with the Great Mighty Pooh song. I would sing that at like family gatherings or whatever, just as a funny thing as I remembered it all. Good lord. In fact, that was also the first thing that I heard about the game from a friend of mine who had it in school. He was kind of seeing a little thing of that. I'm like, that's in the game? There's no way. And he's like, no. It's like really South Parky and adult and crazy. And I'm like, I gotta get this. And I think that I was renting it at first. And then eventually I got, in fact, I think even this is a used copy and it's ancient. The sticker is so old, for Christ's sake. But, sad we never got, oh, here's something. Actually, this is a recent story about this game. So I found a whole bunch of concept art that some of the artists that worked on the game put out recently. And I'd always wondered what was going to happen with the windmill, because they didn't use the windmill for anything. And they always teased that was the final level. Maybe we'll do something with that in the sequel. Finally, found out there was supposed to be a thing. They rearranged parts of the game to be in different areas when they had to cut things down, basically. And they had all these snippets, these concepts of the world map and how the different areas would interconnect into each other and everything, right? So, turns out there was a whole thing where you would go into the windmill after like crushing some other character to open up a door, go into it, you go downstairs, and then you'd fight the boiler boss. That's it. So the boiler boss with the big golden balls or whatever was originally underneath the windmill, and they just moved it to be at the Bats Tower area when you go underneath to go like try to open the safe and everything. And I'm like, oh, that's what it was. This was the same thing as like learning what Stop and Swap was. It's like, oh, it was just meant to be what we got in the sequel the whole time. Great. Okay, cool. So, little disappointing, but at least the mystery was solved after, God knows how many years. Let's see here. Oh, God almighty. All right, speaking of rare also. Hoofa. All right, so I have beaten this game. I've never gotten 100% of the Jiggies before. Never. It's not the Jiggies, Christ. The golden bananas. This game I have fond memories of playing it. I do think it's cool and creative. I've seen funny, wild things with the DK64 randomizer. The guys at what's it called? Games Done Quick. They love going nuts on that stuff. I've seen crazy things with how people have modded this game. But good lord, it's such a pain in the ass. Some of the golden bananas are just so like absolutely insane to get, and all these different things that you have to do. Just to even get any of them. And then not to mention the different colored coins and bananas and the blueprints and all that stuff. It just went nuts on the collectathon aspect of it. I as a kid, I didn't mind that, but like the fact that I didn't get everything, and again, much like with some of the other things like Pokemon Stadium, years later I looked up what the prize was, and it was just that little funny like blooper reel thing of the characters on that white background. And that's fine, that's cute, whatever. But you know, I don't know if I would have found that worth it necessarily to get that for completing everything 100%. And I'm trying to remember if there's like another kind of specific thing to this. I do remember when I was first discovering Grant Kirkhope's work and going to his website and doing all this kind of thing and working with him. I do remember that I do remember being blown away to find out that a lot of the music that was intended for Banjo-Kazooie was actually made, was made for Banjo-Kazooie, didn't get used, and then got recycled into being used for this game instead. I thought that was very cool. So to hear like DK Island and Fungi Forest and all that kind of thing, that was cool. That was cool to see all that. I do wish, I remember as a kid, I wished that Dixie and Kitty were in there, just because I wanted to have a game with the 4 Kongs from the original trilogy. But I can understand why they wanted to have, certain characters, like certain new characters to give, new abilities to specifically just so they could build, new kind of movesets and stuff out of. Also, it was kind of fun to find out years later who some of the voices were. Funnily enough, we still don't know who like most of the Kongs were, other than Grant as DK, and I think Chris Sutherland as Diddy, if I'm not mistaken. We don't know who the other 3 were. I don't think we do. So oddly enough, that's still a little bit of a mystery out there. Put this one back in there since it will break the feng shui of that. Alright, next. Ooh, here's a funny one. Chameleon Twist. Alright, I think that this one is also like maybe like 10 or 20 people play this game, kind of like Mischief Makers. But Mischief Makers, I think, also has a little bit more of a cult status. This one is just like obscure, 100%. Although I guess, okay, I say that, it did get a sequel, so I guess it couldn't have been that obscure. But what a bizarre game. What a strange game. I think I literally just tried renting it at the time, because I just like wanted to see what it was about, and the character looked kind of cute on it, and like, oh, it's another 3D platformer, sure, whatever. So I picked it up, and I think this was one of those games that I beat originally as a rental first, and then eventually years later as an adult I bought it to add to my collection. But I went through sort of multiple playthroughs to try each of the 6 levels. I think that there was even there was a Nintendo Power like featurette, I believe, on this game, and they actually had a tease for, and if you beat it, there's a boss room and you can fight all 6 of the bosses again from each of the levels. And apparently you can't access that in the American version. I think that's only in the Japanese, I think. I don't know. I did eventually try the sequel. I don't own it. Didn't like it that much. I never beat it. I think I only like rented it and got through like maybe 1 or 2 levels and then gave up on it. But still go back to the music of this one once in a while. The Antland music. I still go back and listen to that once in a while of all the music from this game. I also remember being a little freaked out by the final boss and how like violent it turned in the second phase that it had. It was the final boss. Okay, the final boss of this game, which is the final level, is like a haunted house castle kind of thing. The final boss is a ghost that's just made up of a bunch of random like inanimate objects, basically. And I found that cool because I always used to make bad guys in my LARPy play pretend stuff that was just made of like literally this, what you're looking at right now. Like this would be a boss of some kind. Like this would be the head and this is the body, and these little cartridge things would be like the hands that would expand outward or something. I don't know. Stuff like that I would do all the time because I just found it interesting. So not much to say on it. I did think it was funky to find in the sequel, in the international version, that made them look more like actual chameleons, because I guess when you look at like a cartoony like little bobblehead character, they don't look like chameleons offhandedly, so they just kind of found that weird. Shrug. But yep, that's about it for that one. Not a whole lot otherwise. Oh, did I put Mr. Oh, I put Mischief Makers back in here. Oh, I'll put it over on the side. Sure. Okay, let's see. Another one that lit my imagination aflame. Bomberman 64. I love Bomberman. I miss Bomberman being a bigger brand for people. Like, absolutely. This one in particular, I really liked the boss characters, the evil empire or whatever, Altair and Regulus and Orion and Artemis and Sirius, who turns out to be the real bad guy. Spoiler. I actually think I was completely in it with this game because of those characters and wanting to fight them and defeat them. But no, actually, no, that's not true. No. In fact, what I will credit this game for, I loved the sort of like, the levels to me looked like model sets. They looked like big toys. I don't think that was the intention necessarily. Maybe it was. But I liked how they looked like almost kind of like big Lego sets that like were populated with real people and little characters and enemies to fight against. And I loved how they were interconnected. Like, it's noticeable if you look at the way that like the map worlds are set up for Green Garden and Blue Resort and Red Mountain and White Glacier. I thought that was really cool, that it felt like you were progressing through these little worlds and you could see where you had come from and like, oh, okay, I'm all the way up there now. Oh, okay, I kind of went through this thing. Okay, that was cool. I have 100% of this game. I think the only thing I've never done is get all of the gold cards from Rainbow Castle, Rainbow Palace, whatever the secret world is. I haven't done that because that was too difficult for me to pull off. Oh, no. Not that it was too difficult. I just didn't want to because it didn't get you anything, as far as I know. Getting the gold cards in all the other levels gets you to Rainbow Palace to fight against the bad guys, the final boss and whatever. But there's no prize for getting all the gold cards in Rainbow Palace, unless there's something that I was missing somehow. Who knows? But that felt like an incredible achievement. I don't know how I managed to pull off beating this game and doing all that stuff. I think I did come back and do the 100% stuff for this game, and maybe by the time I was in high school, like I think that I went back and played it, and somehow managed to do all that. I don't know how, but I managed to pull that off by some miracle, I guess. But yeah, this one's one of my favorites for sure. Let's see. Oh, wait, no, not yet. Hold on, I'll come back to that one. You know what? Actually, since it's the next, okay. Here we go. Bomberman Hero. This came out before the direct sequel to Bomberman 64. I'm kind of two minds about this game. Knowing that it was originally meant to be a bonk game is interesting and makes sense, because Bomberman jumping, being able to jump, to me, weirdly just feels wrong because of the way that his kind of best adventure games have been, where he doesn't jump. It's all based around just like you're being able to move, to navigate and place the bombs and yada yada. I thought that was okay. I don't love the control scheme of this game. It's very aggravating. The platforming is not great. That being able to throw the bombs and actually land them is a little bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest. The fact that just planting bombs down is mostly useless is a little bit like anti-Bomberman in a certain sense. But I did find it fascinating. I did like the style of it a lot. I thought that the new characters were interesting. Nitros. It was my first time seeing... I used to call him Bugular. Apparently it's Bagular or Baguda or Bugler. It's been translated a million different ways. I didn't realize he originated from other Bomberman games before that were prior to this one. But I always thought that he was really cool. I did... you know what? I don't actually think, to my recollection, I'd have to pop it in, but I don't think that I collected all of the special bombs and went to the final level, the Gyrodin Star area, to fight against the evil bomber. I don't think I did that. Also, finding out that that character was from one of the Super Nintendo Bomberman games originally, from what I'd found out. I didn't realize that until years later either. So a little bit of a fake fan for there. But yeah, this Bomberman game of the 3 and 64 ones I have the least love for, but still kind of a funny one. Still kind of an interesting thing. This lives on with being remixed into very beautiful sounding lo-fi albums. And I know that the guys at Silva Gunner love doing remixes of this game a whole bunch, so for sure. And while we're on the subject of Bomberman, I suppose, Bomberman 64, The Second Attack. This is one of my favorite games on the whole console. It's very difficult. The levels are pretty difficult, but very creative. Loved all the elemental bombs. Loved all of the elemental knights. This was also one of those early things that influenced me to want to have elemental based characters for a balancing act specifically, because it was right around that time. And funny thing, Bullzeeb, which is the kind of black armored version of Regulus, the boss from Bomberman 64, if I'm remembering correctly, I dressed up as him for Halloween in the 8th grade. Absolutely no one knew who the fuck I was. I should have saved that costume for an anime convention where maybe somebody would have recognized me. Maybe. But that was also where my love of characters with cool visors, came from originally. And I thought he was super cool and loved seeing his whole kind of story and everything. I remember with my cousins at the time, I played some kind of like role-play game where I was playing as some of those characters and they would have to fight against them in some way. Love the music of this one. Love the stages. Love the story. I've always wanted this to be a game that maybe I get a bunch of people and we voice it, but I think because it has such little like people that are really into it, it's like I wouldn't be able to gather enough people to do such a thing for it, to be honest. So whatever. But that's a big personal favorite for sure. Let's see. All right. Well, here's a big one. Let me assemble some of these in the right way. Okay. So of course, I can't not talk about Ocarina of Time, the only Zelda game I've ever finished, ever. Let alone played, because I've not played a whole lot of them, and that's very embarrassing to say, unfortunately. But yeah, I do love this game very much. I think it's fantastic. I remember I would have been so lost without a player's guide. Thank God I had that. I will mention, I do remember on the player's guide, even beyond the game itself, I thought it was really cool that the player's guide had it was written in a way that was like a storybook unfolding. So it's like, and then Link journeyed across Hyrule Field to get to Hyrule Castle Town to speak with Malon and blah blah blah, whatever, like those kind of things. That's the way that it was written. I thought that was very cool and immersed me more into the story. I had a weird obsession with the water temple, which I didn't realize until years later was like the hated temple that was a pain in the ass to get through, apparently. And I always thought that Morpho was the final boss, the gross like amoeba thing that becomes like a little water tentacle. That was my favorite boss. I always really liked that. And I remember I straight up just put that character in that old ancient LARP version of Balancing Act. Couldn't tell you why. No idea why. But just thought he was super cool. This was another one of those games, as of many around here, that had a lot of rumors about it. And I believe some of them certainly about, other unlockable temples and yada yada. Have not 100%ed it, was not that dedicated to it, didn't want to go around looking for all the fucking gold skulltulas and everything, wasn't big into that. But I do remember feeling very triumphant when I went through and beat the game. And I even remember, especially, I shared this game with someone a few years ago, and they weren't super into it. They didn't grow up with it. They weren't super into it, but I remember when we got to the final boss and they had the big final battle against Ganon, both Ganondorf, then the castle crumbling, and then Ganon himself. They were like, this is one of the coolest endings to any game ever. Which was cool, because it is very impactful. It's a really, really cool way to end a game, for sure. It's a very legendary final fight. So yeah, trying to think of any other specific things with this one. I did really like... Oh, you know what? Okay. So I'll kind of save most of this story for Banjo-Kazooie when I get to that, because spoiler, I have it in there. But I remember the two timelines, the ruined timeline future thing. I think this was one of the first things that I had an experience with, and then a lot of cartoon shows that I grew up with did episodes that were kind of that sort of trope as well. But I did sort of a role play thing with that at one point, like all by myself. That was a little silly. But in addition, this is the first game. No, this and Star Fox 64 were the two games I grew up with where I was like, I want to see a movie of this. Like just a movie based on what happens in this and expanded upon and given more story stuff and everything, you know? And admittedly, I still kind of want that. I don't know how the Zelda live action movie is going to turn out. I imagine that one is probably going to be like just kind of a mishmash of different Zelda things in the way that the Mario movie was, which is fine. So I'm not against that. But yeah, hopefully we'll get a good movie that will mostly be taking a lot of inspiration from this version in particular. So let's see. Oh, here's a funny one. Mario Party 1. Not my favorite Mario Party game. Funnily enough, I don't own Mario Party 3, which is my favorite. But I put a lot of hours into this game. Holy shit. I have 100% of this game. As in, I got 100 stars and unlocked the Eternal Star. The final secret board. Jesus H. Christ, the amount of hours that I put my poor friends throughout high school. I think it was high school or maybe early college. I was trying to 100% this game. And I went through and played, big 4-player matches so that all the stars that we collected would all go towards the total and everything. We did that so much. Everybody's poor palms were fucking destroyed by this game. Jesus H. Christ. But I really love it. I love the music of this one a lot. It blew my mind when years later I unlocked... what's it called? Bowser's Fire Mountain, I think. One of the secret boards that you can get after you play one match on each of the other boards. And I remember when I realized that it had a little bit of a remix of the da na 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 from Mario RPG specifically. That blew my goddamn mind. I thought that was so cool that they had a little nod to that in there. So yeah, just honestly. Should also mention, the AI of this game has made me fucking cry when I was a little kid before. It was so brutal. Even on easy mode, I was like, Jesus Christ, what am I doing? So despite the, very harmful to the palms mini games, I like this game a lot. I would play this with folks. Friendships would probably be destroyed, but it's a fun one, and it was a good start to get a good sort of kickoff to everything with the Mario Party series for sure. Let there be lights. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see. What's next? Lastly, I was admittedly a little disappointed with this game. I do enjoy it. I have, I guess, not 100%ed it in that I've not gotten 100 melons on it. I've beaten every stage. That's about it, really. Yeah, Yoshi's Story, it's cute. I was excited about it at the time because I'm like, oh cool, Yoshi game, I like Yoshi. I had not played Yoshi's Island until after this game. I didn't know what I was missing, but I guess it was actually kind of good because I played the not as good game and then I played the infinitely better game after that because I got Yoshi's Island for Super Nintendo at some point after and grew to adore it. Only real story I have is that I always had a funny thing about the main theme of this game, if no one's ever noticed this. If you listen really closely, there's a little similar thing to the theme song of a certain show. Ba 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 ba. Garfield and Friends. That's all I got. Moving on. Okay. Oh, here's a weird one. Space Station Silicon Valley. A game, as I didn't realize, was later created, or later I realized was created by the people that created Grand Theft Auto. It was one of the studios that I think became Rockstar, if I'm not mistaken. Interesting thing about this one, well, there's a lot. I love the mechanic of getting to make the microchip turn into different animals and kind of like go around and do the different puzzles. I recall a bunch of things. I didn't see the opening cutscenes of this game until I bought a new fresh copy, and I was under the impression that it would only play the cutscenes if you played a fresh copy that had never been powered on before, ever. And then I realized, oh no, it's just if you leave it on the title screen for a little bit and then it plays them again. So that was bizarre to me, but I believed that for many years. I've been a writer for a huge portion of my life, right? And one of the first things that I ever actually wrote as a finished product, well, not a finished product, but just a little thing, was I wrote an early balancing act story that was about the character based on me and my cat, which was Simba, like the actual character Simba, because we had the plushie of him and the whole thing with the color friends and all that bullshit. We go to a museum, go inside, climb inside of a rocket at like a space museum, and then blast off, and then we go to Space Station Silicon Valley. I don't know. It captured my imagination and influenced me enough that I wanted to do that. Don't think I ever properly beat this game either. I think that what I did was I used a cheat code to be able to skip to the end of the game and do the final boss. So I've seen the ending, and then I was like, wow, I guess I'm not that upset that I never went all the way through it, because the ending's kind of lame and not satisfying at all. The final level was cool, where you go to New York and you're giant and you fight all the, like, you know, animals that have gone haywire and everything. That was cool. The actual level designs were kind of cute. They're probably very, like, massively simplistic, but I did enjoy the kind of cute nature of them, and, you know, again, the low poly aesthetic, and the kind of, like, I liked that the music was on, like, physical, like, stereo systems that you could blow up, and then the music would stop playing. I thought that was kind of a fun, little cute addition. So, and I thought Evo, the robot character, had kind of a neat design. I'm in the storybook version that I wrote, I made him the bad guy, actually, and I gave him little horns on his head. I should draw that at some point. Only a couple left. Alrighty, Banjo-Kazooie, absolute masterpiece of a game. Still love it. Funnily enough, I do think that this is better than Mario 64. I went back and forth on that for a long time, but now I can definitively say I like this game more than Mario 64. I think the levels are more creative. I love not having to stop after you get a single Jiggy, and you can get pretty much all of them in one go, other than having to go get the running shoes from the desert, from Gobi's Valley first, and then you do all of Freeze Easy Peak. Other than that, I did like the prospect of being able to do everything all in one go. I was obsessed with the secrets of this game, like you cannot fucking believe. When somebody at Nintendo Power dropped all of the secret codes for unlocking the question mark eggs for the abandoned stop and swap thing, that was meant to be for, like, you know, transferring data to the sequel and whatever. I remember I was so excited to actually be able to go to these new areas and get these things. I'm sure a lot of you probably already know the whole stop and swap thing. I won't bore you with the whole story of that, but that blew my goddamn mind as a kid, being able to do that. So, yeah, I've beaten this game, God, probably 10 times or so. I have beaten this game altogether. I think my fastest time was either like 4 or 5 hours, something like that. Non-stop, and that's 100%. Everything, every note, every Jiggy, every honeycomb piece, everything I got. I did that once. I think it was the Xbox version that they ported, if I'm not mistaken. Click Clock Wood. I mentioned a thing about Ocarina of Time. I was at a babysitter's house. Actually, the babysitter's house where the Kirby name was born, funnily enough. Her name was Kim. She was cool. I played in her backyard, and I had a whole day there. And I came up with this weird RP thing where I was pretending to like have the whole backyard be Click Clock Wood with all the characters that lived around there. And I combined it with the seasons passing thing with the time travel thing, like the bad dystopian future. And I made it so that Mr. Vile the crocodile from Bubble Gloop Swamp went corrupted and like became evil and turned into an iron knuckle from Zelda. I was a disturbed child, just to, establish that. I have dreamed of being in Banjo-Kazooie style low poly levels, specifically because of this game. This is definitely also one of the biggest ones that made me like love low poly 3D type shit. Absolutely. Way into that. So, yeah, I personally, I really love that sort of thing for sure. And so the thought of them doing a sequel was like the most exciting thing. This was I think that this might have been the most anticipated sequel that I was like absolutely beyond excited for. I literally remember I was with my dad. My N64 was back at my mom's house. I went to visit him for the weekend because custody stuff when they were divorced and everything. And my dad and I literally went and we rented an entire N64 console and rented Banjo-Tooie. Speaking of now that we're getting into this here, and rented it just to be able to try it out. I think that we did that at one point. And I remember because I was at Blockbuster and saw this on the kiosk and saw the, what's it called? The big opening cutscene where Gruntilda's revived. She gets brought out from under the rock. Her sisters, Bottles gets killed and everything. No. I missed the part where Bottles got killed. And then I saw that when I finally played it. I was like, oh my God, no! So, and then of course, similar thing with the Stop and Stop when I was, why is Devil Bottles one of the little heads that can answer you in the Tower of Tragedy thing, which just reminded me of something else. Then to find out, of course, it was the Bottles revenge mode that never got made or whatever. They couldn't finish it in time. I remember for one of my birthdays one year, I invited a bunch of friends over and we played Tower of Tragedy as a fun little party game. And I made a bunch of what's it called, of like trivia questions for all of them to answer. Literally my dad and I bought like buzzers, like little like toy buzzers to call in and like do a thing so that we could like, okay, you buzzed in first, you answer the question and yada yada. We literally treated it like it was Tower of Tragedy. It was so funny. That was one of my favorite I always used to do crazy shit for my birthday parties and stuff for the kids that would come over and everything. So that was a fun time. Last but not least, I believe this is the most recent addition to my collection in terms of owning it. I rented Mega Man Legends or Mega Man 64 from my local Blockbuster. No. I think when it was still Hollywood Video, and then it became Blockbuster. I think that's what it was. By the way, also, P.S. my Mischief Makers copy is bought from my Hollywood Video before it went out of business, and then I rented this game over and over, I think at least 2 or 3 times, and then beat it entirely off of rentals just to be able to go through it. And then eventually, by the time I moved to LA, I think it was about like 5 years ago, Brandon Grickus actually sold me this. He was giving away all of his games, and I bought this off of him. I love this game. It's not good. I don't think it's a good game because it's very flawed. The dungeons are not that interesting. The combat is very lame. The controls are a pain in the ass, but I love the world, the story, the characters, the vibe of it so goddamn much. I love everything else about this game, and I'm sad. I understand why, this series didn't go as long as it could have, but I wish that it had like a different future. I wish there was still a chance that Legends 3 could have been something that could have happened somehow. But yeah, this game is super, super cool. And this is the big one that has made me consider like the idea of doing 3D graphics in a low poly style, specifically because of this kind of thing. I'd really, really love to be able to do that at some point. So, and who knows, maybe someday. I've played a little bit around in Blender thanks to Germ before. Who knows? But that was a big thing that I really, really enjoyed about getting to do this. So, and then there it is. There's a couple more games that I would love to add to this collection at some point. But, you know, not bad at all. Let me see. In total, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, there's another 8 on the other side of 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. 26 N64 games collected, and upwards of 30 that I've played. I've played many more. Tetrasphere, Mario Tennis, Mario Golf. I've rented the other Mario Party games. A few others. Lots and lots of ones. I rented all sorts of games with these, so I could go on and on, but that's a little bit of a slice of my collection. I don't do much collecting anymore. I collected a little bit of manga recently for the first time in many years. But this is the big kind of crowning jewel of my collection. Maybe someday I'll add a few more games to this. Maybe I'll make a proper sort of shrine for all these and have them all kind of like, you know, lined up in some way and kind of more of like a display kind of way. That could be cool to do if I could figure something out with that at some point. But that's a little sample of a special part of my childhood and my adulthood. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. This is going to be the last Kirblog and probably the last video of 2024. So thank you very much. Thank you to Zinfinity for voting on this topic. Thank you to Tommy and Viel and Lava Ring for tuning in on our Discord server while I recorded this one. And hopefully we'll get to some cool ones and some cool stuff for next year. To everybody, I know that it's a very, very difficult time for the whole world right now. It's a scary, scary place to be and a lot of uncertainty. But please don't lose hope. We as a country have gotten through worse before. We'll get through anything. We'll get through this somehow. I know we will. I know no matter how hard the journey is going to be. And also, further, more relevantly, to write, you know, kind of around the time, because this is going to be coming out on Christmas Eve. I know also the holidays can be kind of a sad time for people. It's not always a happy time. You know, I'm not going home to see my family this year. Unfortunately, I can't afford to. So I'm not able to see my folks for either, you know, Christmas or my birthday. But you know what? I'm still very grateful for the good things in my life and the people that I have in my life and the things that make me happy that are able to get me through the day, you know? So please don't lose sight of that, everybody. You know, cling tightly to what you have that brings you joy. And I hope that if even this little quick video for like a little under an hour or so gives you a little bit of joy in between everything, then you know what? That's my goal is accomplished. So thank you for watching this. I hope you had some, you know, got some fun stuff out of the little short stories I had to share. If you have stories of N64 games, specifically N64 for this one, please share in the comments below. I'd love to hear them and read them. And thank you all to everybody who's been supporting me on my Patreon. I think we're up to maybe 2 years at this point now that I've been having it. So it's very kind of y'all. It's a little thing that helps me keep the lights on in here, literally over there. So thank you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Winter Solstice, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy everything you could possibly imagine. Happy New Year, Happy 36th birthday to me in a few more days. And I'll see you all next year, hopefully with some more cool stuff to share. So thank you very much, and I'll see you around. Bye.
Merry Christmas!
And a Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. Woohoo!